Hi there, it's Nikki here from Happy Hormones for Life, and today I want to talk to you about menopause myths. Whenever I talk to women over 40, there are so many misconceptions around menopause, the word, what they're going through, and a lot of women who actually just think it's nothing to do with them because they're not menopausal yet. And that is one of the first myth I want to talk to you about, is that menopause officially happens in your 50s. Yes, it does, but menopause, the official term for menopause is a year after your final period. That's when you're post-menopausal. However, there is this whole period before that from the age of around 35, and that's when your hormones start changing. And many women aren't aware of the fact that it can happen so young. So when I talk to women in their late 30s, early 40s who are going through some of the symptoms of perimenopause, they don't realise that they're actually on that journey and in that transition period. So menopause is a strange term because we always think about it happening to women in their 50s, and it's that perimenopausal journey that is so important and can be so debilitating for many women. So that's myth number one. Myth number two is that menopause and the perimenopause is just about hot flushes. And, you know, this is the most common and most known about symptom of menopause, but it's actually one of not thousands, but possibly hundreds of symptoms that you can have going through the perimenopausal years, because hormones control virtually everything that we do in the body, how we look, feel, think, and behave. So any one of those things can be affected. So you can imagine that there are going to be lots and lots of different symptoms. Hot flushes are definitely one of them because of the fluctuating estrogen levels. However, we've got a lot of other things: weight gain, brain fog, mood swings. Did I say moon? Mood swings, memory loss, poor sleep, digestive issues, fatigue, PMS. There are so many different types of symptoms, and every woman is different. So every woman might have some of those, none of those, or all of the above. So it's not just about hot flushes. So myth number three is following on from that, and the myth that menopause is all about low estrogen. Now, of course, our estrogen does decline naturally after the age of 35 because our ovarian reserve is declining, and estrogen is produced when we produce an egg. And as our eggs decline, then obviously estrogen is going to be declining too. And as we get through menopause and post-menopause, then our levels are a lot lower than they were in our reproductive years. However, the perimenopausal transition period does mean that we have fluctuating estrogen. It's not always low. And the other thing to bear in mind is that estrogen works alongside progesterone. And progesterone declines very, very rapidly after the age of 35 because as we don't ovulate every month, then we don't produce enough progesterone. So our levels decline very quickly. And that can leave a bigger gap between estrogen, which is declining a bit more slowly, and progesterone, which is declining rapidly. And that can leave us in a situation where we have too much estrogen compared to progesterone. So we may have symptoms throughout the month of low estrogen, and then we may have high estrogen symptoms as well. So we could be fluctuating between fluid retention, migraines, symptoms of PMS, mood swings, weight around the sort of hips and belly area, and those are sort of tend to be symptoms associated with high estrogen. And then we've breast tenderness as well is a big one. And then you've got the symptoms of low estrogen, which are wrinkles, dryness, painful sex, painful vaginal dryness, also memory loss, and poor sleep, insomnia, and hot flushes and night sweats. Those are the symptoms that are associated with low levels of estrogen. And you could have both all the way through the month, or you could have one or the other. So it's certainly not definitive in that area. So myth number 4 is that you'll lose your sex drive. Now, this is quite a common symptom of the menopause and the perimenopause. As sex hormones fluctuate, as cortisol is high, so that stress hormone is impacting your libido and your sex drive. Testosterone can decline as well. Thyroid can suffer, and that's all about sex drive as well, because that's energy to your cells. So there can be it's a very common symptom. However, it doesn't mean that every woman will have that. In fact, some women report increased libido during the menopausal years. So it's not a prerequisite either. So it's just very, very different for different women. Myth number 5, HRT is the only option. Well, it is an option, and it certainly is. It can be a life savior for a lot of women who are really struggling with quality of life, struggling with all of these symptoms. And I know a lot of women on HRT that are very happy that they're on HRT. Other women can do things naturally and still be able to control their symptoms. So if you've got the right foundations in place, and I always say, get your foundations in place, get your diet right, get your lifestyle right, get your supplements right, and then you've got a fighting chance of being able to do everything naturally. Not all women can do that. They will get their foundations in place and they'll still need hormone replacement, and that's fine too. But a lot of women can do it naturally. And also, if you do need hormone replacement, there is an alternative. There is bioidentical hormone replacement, which you should talk to your doctor about. Okay, myth number 6 is that dieting will help with weight gain over 40. Now, please go onto my blog. I've done a whole blog on ditch the diet if you're over 40, because I'm a classic yo-yo dieter, have been all my life, and it really worked for me before I hit the age of 40. I would always be able to shed the pounds that I gained by any old fad diet that I could find, and it always seemed to work. Now, when I hit 40, that sort of stopped overnight virtually. I could not shift the weight. No matter what fad diet I went on, I might lose a couple of pounds, but it was really, really hard, and I'd always gain it back on again. So the reason this happens when you're over 40 is that your hormones are very much in control. And when you do any kind of deprivation diet or calorie controlled diet, your body thinks it's going into some kind of starvation or famine. And it will respond in quite an exaggerated way as you're over 40, because the stress on the body is, you're much less resilient to stress when you get over 40. So the stress response is a greater one. And what happens is cortisol is released because your body thinks you're in a famine mode, so it needs to shut down, conserve energy, store fat like crazy because it doesn't know when the next meal is coming. And it's in survival mode, and that fight or flight response is activated, and so is your stress hormone cortisol. And cortisol loves to store fat around the belly. So when you're trying to diet, it's actually having the opposite effect. So it'll slow down your metabolism because your body wants to shut everything down to conserve it. And when your metabolism is slow, we know that it's very, very hard to burn fat. In fact, you're in fat storing mode because that's what the body wants to do. So diets are quite stressful on the body, and that is why it's always very hard to lose weight when you're over 40, because you're not actually supporting your hormones. And when cortisol is activated, it tends to shut down all the other hormones as well. So thyroid will be affected, and thyroid is your metabolism. So when your thyroid's not working properly, virtually impossible to lose the weight. And of course, when you stopped the deprivation diet and you go back to normal eating, then your metabolism's really slow, and you just pile the weight back on, and a lot more usually. And now your metabolism's slow, so anything you look at, you're likely to put weight on. So it's not something we want to be doing to our bodies. We want to be feeding our bodies lots of hormone-friendly nutrients so that the hormones can work properly for you, and they can tell the body to start increasing the metabolism and burning fat. And that's the only way to kind of lose weight sustainably when you get older. Sorry, it's not easier than that. Now, myth number 7 is that symptoms are all physical, like weight gain, hot flushes, fatigue, joint pain, brain fog, all those sorts of things. But actually, some of the most debilitating symptoms are the mental ones, where you can get over-emotional, you can get anxious and stressed, and depressed. Depression is a big one. So just to being aware of that it's not unusual to have these mental and emotional symptoms as well as the physical. They're very much a part of the perimenopausal years, but all reversible. Myth number 8 is that menopause supplements will help. Now, that's a very general statement, but I'm talking about the ones that are marketed, particularly at the menopause market, and they will claim to get rid of all your hot flushes and make you sane again. Now, any one supplement will not do that for a start. And some of these supplements have very big marketing budgets and very little in the way of quality. Some of them have very low levels of nutrients in them and quite high levels of things like additives and fillers, and not so good stuff that you want to be putting in your body. So anything that's kind of cheap and marketed at the mass market is generally in that category. Not everything, but I would say possibly to avoid, and really just seek professional advice as to what supplements you should be taking, because there are some really good ones and not so good ones, but it very much depends on what you individually need according to your own symptoms, your own history, and also what medications you might be on as well, because supplements interact with medications, so you need to be making sure you're getting advice as to what interacts with what, and you don't want to be taking something that stops your own medication working as well. So that's that on supplements. Myth number 9 is your periods are going to be lighter and disappearing. Well, we often think that, hey, yes, menopause, we're going to stop our periods. It's possibly one of the advantages of the whole thing. However, in the run-up to the menopause, your periods could be kind of all over the place. They're going to be irregular. You might have spotting in between, and they might be really heavy and painful for the first time in years. Some people say to me that they've never had such heavy and painful periods, and not even as teenagers. So this is actually really, really common, and it's often due to that imbalance between the estrogen and the progesterone. So, too high estrogen compared to progesterone can cause PMS, the heaviness, and the pain. And that's very, very common as you go through. But balancing that estrogen progesterone is really, really key. And you can do that through diet, lifestyle, and natural supplements, and get rid of that excessive PMS and painful periods. Last myth out there is that there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to get on with it. And of course, I'm going to say, of course, that's not true. There's plenty of things you can do about it. A lot of the symptoms through menopause can be triggered by diet, lifestyle, and lack of nutrients. And stress in particular, and lack of sleep. So all of those things are you can do things about, and that's what we're about here at Happy Hormones, because we want to make sure that all of those foundations are in place, so that you've got everything right. You're eating right for your hormones, you're resting, getting enough stress relief, and balancing that cortisol. That you haven't got any, or you're minimising your exposure to these fake estrogens in the environment, which can really upset the hormone balance as you go through this period. And that you're doing the right exercise as well. You're not over-exercising, but you're getting some movement in your day. So all of those things are achievable and really important. So I really hope that you've got something out of this, and that's helped clear up some of the confusion around the perimenopause and the menopausal years. And do get in touch if you need any help. Take care.